Tell us some Joe stories.
Jokes?
Joe. And we have three things about Joe.
Joe.
Your brother Joe.
Well, I remember, really, being the young, I never knew Joel and Della until I grew up. I was scared to death of Della. And Joe, I remember about Joe and Catherine. We went down and stayed with them and saw our first 4th of July fireworks in Broadus. They came up to the ranch and got us, and we stayed with Joe and Catherine. Yeah. Joe was a real neat guy. I always remember Joe working for the state, and he lived up on the hill by the high school, and he had this truck going 5 miles an hour, and he'd always go right downtown, go to work, and come back downtown, and go home, and you knew it was Joe coming in his truck. He never went over 5 miles an hour, I don't think. And he was a good-looking guy, and the women, he had to beat the women off, I'm telling you. That's why his sons are so good looking.
Later years, Joe and I worked together quite a little, trucking. And Joe done everything the hard way. You'd offer him your grain auger to load wheat. He said no. He said, I'll just shovel it. That's the same way with coal, you know. You couldn't help him because he wanted to do it the hard way.
Never used a hoist. Never had a hoist on his truck.
No. One time we was hauling cattle out of north of Broadus, and there was a lot of snow, and we had to detour off the road to get across this big snowdrift. And of course, we all come around there, and when we crossed the road, there was quite a hole there. We all give it a gun, and we come right out. Of course, Joe drove real slow. The truck fell in there, and then he'd back up, and then he'd try it again. Finally, it made him mad. When he went out the third time, he just gave it a gun, and out he comes. When he got up there, I said, Joe, you should have done that the first time. Yeah, I guess so.
I remember Joe, this is before Joe and Catherine were married. I don't know what he was doing up the ranch. He was the ranch, but anyway, he decided to go to Old Boys on horseback. And at that time, there were some real tough guys by the name of the Dillons.
Yeah, and let's see who else was.
Well, anyway, the Dillons. I don't know. So Joe went to Boys. And I don't know if they got to drinking or what. But these guys ganged up on Joe and just beat the heck out of him. And he got on that horse and came home, and he was in a daze. He didn't know where he was or anything when he got home. Because Mama was so scared that he was going to die. Because he really did. He was so disoriented because they really beat him up.
Took 3 guys to do it, though.
Yeah, right. Well, they tried that with George over on East Ford, when George and I used to run around together. And he said, come on. He opened up his trunk and he got out the jack, that big jack iron. He said, come on. Who wants to come? Everybody backed off.
I'll have to tell you something about Margaret here.
Oh, really?
She wanted to go to the dance at and Aldrich. And Dad said, you're not going to the dance.
I said, you watch me.
So in the summertime, instead of sleeping upstairs, they had a bed kind of out the door there. Dad was sleeping there. She crawled out the window and met this Klein, was it?
No, Sadie Porta and Paul and Tony Paul.
Yeah,
They
anyway,
took the
they went-
screen off during the day.
And then when you got
Darn
home,
right.
And I
you
had to
couldn't
keep
crawl
this.
back in the window, so she had to go
Well, it
down
was
there.
daylight.
Yeah. Boy, Dad was mad.
Well, he said, where have you been? And I said, been to the dance. And he said, Mama was gone. Mama was probably went up to Della's. When Della was sick when she had Margaret anyway. He said, I've been to the dance. And he said, fine. It was in July or something, so we had to pick all the beans. He said, well, you can pick beans and then you can can them all day. He wouldn't let me go to bed all day. I had a can of big green beans. Tell her to have one.
And Norma was real small, so I have to keep her quiet because when Maggie went to go out the window, she'd start crying. So I covered her up with a blanket and almost suffocated her.
You see why my brain isn't quite all together. Another time, Maggie got some love letters from, I don't know who, see. So I found them. And so all day long, I'm going around reading parts of those love letters.
I'm sure they were good.
Oh, they were. And she just was going to kill me, so I crawled under the bed and went to sleep, and I must have been under there 3 or 4 hours. Nobody came looking, but I mean, I remember reading those love letters. They were so.
They were really good, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Another thing about John, I think that everybody in Broadus remembers about him is twice a day, in the morning he'd get in that pickup and he'd drive all around town and, maybe stop and have a cup of coffee or something, or he'd stop and check Della out. And then he'd go home, and then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he'd do the same thing. He'd just get in that truck and drive around town and look at everybody and then go home.
The funny thing was, John was a volunteer fireman, and Bay was out of town one time. So anyway, John decided to go downtown for dinner. When he got down there, the fire bell rang, and everybody says, "Come on, John, your house is on fire." And John, "Oh yeah, right." So he just kept right on eating, and it was his house on fire. He left a cigarette in the couch. But our dad also had a coal mine. He worked the coal mine at Old Boys, and him and the boys would get up every morning and take the horses and whatever and go to the mine. And then a lot of times he had to work overtime. So we had a little black horse named Billy. They would tie a note on his mane and send him home, and he would come home, roll under all the gates, and come and stand at our front door and whinny until somebody came out and took that note off of him. That was just amazing.
That's when they used to put on the boys to
Party.
heist a few.
Yeah, well, he was going to be
They
late
send the
anyway.
horse home and can't go to boys.
Dad would fall off the horse, and so
Yeah.
Billy would come on home. So we knew Dad was along the road someplace. So you guys would, get in a sled or on a horse or something and go find him.
Well, one time Dad was coming someplace and he was intoxicated and he fell off of the horse and his one foot got stuck in the stirrup, and that horse was taking a step like this and he felt him fall, and that horse stayed there until Dad woke up enough to get up on it. He didn't drag him or anything. He's still sitting there with his leg up in the stirrup, and the horse never even moved after that. Those horses are really bright. They were really good. We used to cry every time a hailstorm storm came because of our animals being out there, It was